Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I uploaded last video. It's been a little bit hectic in the studio. Right now it's about 10:30 p.m. I'm in the studio watching some videos about how to become an artist. Those are mostly the recommendations made by YouTube, and today I came across one video made by Alan Avery Art Company titled "So You Want to Be an Artist," and I thought of making a reaction video to it, as some of the things that were said in his video are not necessarily something that I might agree, but also some of them are pretty important, and they have actual reflection in real life, but also the video itself is pretty funny, so I thought that maybe sharing my reaction to it. Anyway, without any further ado, I will just proceed to the video. You can find their channel. It's pretty interesting. Some of the information they give might be very helpful for artists, especially those emerging artists, but more and more I watch them, I start laughing at them a lot, and that's why I'm making this video now. So my first initial reaction to this video was that the guy, or in this case art dealer, he actually doesn't wear socks, which is very unusual, and first of all makes me laugh, and also I felt like it's a little bit disrespectful for the audience he's talking to, and it doesn't really look serious as an art dealer wearing socks. If he's talking about selling art, 10,000, 100,000, 150,000 and more, but at the same time he's not wearing socks and acting like he's maybe an artist or some sort of eccentric creating very special and unique business, but to me it's just disrespectful. If he would be an artist, I think that would be quite fun and interesting to see that kind of person without socks, presenting his work, art, and talking about it, and be himself a kind of a performer who presents his own art. But in this case I find it very disrespectful, and doesn't really appear to me as somebody I would like to work with, even as an artist, not mentioned as a collector.
I think 60% of what you learn in art school is bullshit, with the exception of art history. Art history is really important because that can help you develop your work. Other than that, there's a lot of fluff.
Well, maybe there is some truth to that. I agree that when I graduated from my art school, I didn't really know much about art business. Nobody taught me how to be an artist, or how to rent a studio, sell my art and all that things, but to some degree you don't need this information as an emerging artist. If you're really good to begin with, somehow your intuition will tell you what to do. So I don't really agree that art school is complete bullshit, and if he says so, that maybe he actually should go to visit some art schools and talk to faculty and see what actually they have to say, and maybe his view to that would be completely different. In regards to the art history, yes, I agree here. all artists need some knowledge of art history or great knowledge of it, depends what your needs are. But in the first place, you need to be good at what you do and be sure that and be sure about what you do.
And there's a lot of professors trying to teach you to paint like them.
Basically stuff you gotta forget.
Yeah, I mean, it can really harm your work. I've seen it harm work. But, you know, go if you must, and do what you must. Some of the greatest, well-known painters did not go to art school.
Well, yes, that's true. Some of the great painters didn't go to art school, but how many of them didn't really go to art school? There may be few that succeed in that. In today's world, even if you are great and you know what you want to do and what kind of painter or artist you want to be before art school, you don't have to go if you feel like you can succeed. But actually, art school help you, and that degree you get actually opens you straight away a lot of doors. Also, going back to the beginning of what he said, I don't agree that art school is total bullshit. You really meet there great faculty and teacher professors, and they don't really ask you to paint the way they paint or do what they do. They just teach or present you the knowledge they have, and it's actually up to you, student or artist, if you actually want to go that way or you want to pursue your own style. And I'm certain that all faculty will support that if that's something that is unique and show your individually and creativity.
Leonardo da Vinci didn't, Van Gogh, Toulouse-Lautrec, even Walt Disney, did not go to art school.
Well, Leonardo da Vinci, well, he didn't go maybe to art school, but he lived in different times, and that time he had to join some sort of master in art or his studio, and basically he started actually from washing brushes and copying drawing or great master, just learning from that in the back room of the studio. So I think that he should maybe go back to Leonardo da Vinci and research him a little bit more, and other artists as well.
Did not go to art school. And look what they did. Look what they became. I mean, Leonardo da Vinci. We're still using his tools to carve in stone and make sculptures to replicate human beings. I mean, the man was a genius, but he didn't go to art school. That's not to say that you don't have to learn the rules. But today, you can learn the rules on the internet. Today, there are artist co-ops and artists who get together who can teach each other. We have great groups in Atlanta.
Then maybe going to art school is a better option.
Great groups in Atlanta of artists who get together and have their own little co-ops together. In my opinion, you have to learn composition. That's extremely important. You have to learn perspective. You have to learn anatomy if you're going to include figures in your work. You've got to learn color theory. You've got to learn spatial relation. There must.
Of course there must, and all artists know that, and I don't know what he's trying to become here right now, an expert in art or art teacher himself. Maybe he has some type of insecurity himself that he's just exposing right now to the audience.
They're a must. Even as an abstract artist, they're a must. You've got to learn the rules in order to break them. Most of my abstract artists started out.
Yes, I agree. You have to learn some rules first to break the rules, but that's we all know that we don't need to go to another seminar to hear that or read 20 books about that subject.
As realist painters. You know, I'll use Caio Fonseca for instance, the small black and white piece that's down there. He did all figurative and landscape work when he started out as a painter. And he started to go, as he calls it, the university. He started going to the university, but his brother told him to leave and come and study with a great painter in Italy with him. And so he did, he quit.
Well, it's not an uncommon thing that artists, either after they graduate from school or while they are still at school, they become an assistant of other artists. And that goes back again to Leonardo da Vinci. He did the same. If you look at his biography, he actually was learning from other artists. And yes, to a certain degree it's could be helpful because those artists can actually give you some opportunities in a long run, but it definitely not going to be in a short term. And actually it's going back to what he said before about art school, that teachers trying to impose their way of painting to students and presenting as the only way. But actually, if that artist went to the studio of other artists to grasp his talent or way of his painting, that means that he's actually trying to learn something from that artist, and maybe paint the same way for a while to rediscover himself and to do something else in the painting or artwork.
He has very little formal education, but he did learn all the things that I speak of. He knew how to do perspective, he knew color theory, he knew spatial relation, he knew composition, and moved beyond that. He wanted a simpler way in which to say what he had to say. As an artist. Talking about the honest assessment of your talent and why you create artwork. There are a lot of artists with great ideas, unique ideas, revolutionary ideas. And there are some galleries that have incredible technical skill. I am not a fan of photorealism. I believe...
Wait a second and go back to what he just said.
Ideas. Talking about the honest assessment of your talent and why you create artwork, which to say what he had to say. There are, as an artist, a lot of artists with great ideas. Talking about the honest assessment.
Yes, there are a lot of
your
artists
talent
with great ideas. So
and why you
that's
create
one point.
Artwork.
He's saying
unique ideas, revolutionary
there
ideas.
are
a lot
and there
of
are
artists
some
with
galleries that
great
have
ideas.
incredible
Technical unique
skill.
ideas, revolutionary
I am not
ideas.
a fan of photorealism.
And there are some galleries that have incredible
technical skill.
I am not a fan of photorealism. I believe that photorealism is a technique. I believe that photorealism, that anyone can learn technique. Therefore, it does nothing for me. Other people love it. I mean, photorealists think that artists who do abstract work is, it's crap.
Well, of course some people will love it. I personally, as an artist painter, I'm not a really big fan of photorealism, but when I see a painting that is photorealistic and it's presented in a great way, I actually will enjoy it, and I will enjoy the work that artists put into it, because I'm not necessarily the person who has that patience to make that photorealistic painting. And let's be honest, there are collectors who will collect only that kind of work, and those who don't like it. That's why we have variety of artists making variety of different works, and that's the beauty of art. And I'm not really sure how he wants to connect that artists with great ideas to the gallery with great executions, and himself not liking photorealism. But let's see.
And a lot of times they're at divisive points. But for me, it does not. But when you can bring incredible ideas and incredible creativity and incredible revolutionary language that has not been said before, together with incredible technique, wow, that's when it happens. That's what when I jury shows, I say that's when one line can become a masterpiece, when one swipe can become a masterpiece.
Well, I felt like he didn't really give us any great answer or any great really like argumentative or constructive opinion what actually photorealism has to do with art market or art or school or whatever. Looks like it's just his personal attachment to it, and that he doesn't personally like, and I'm not necessarily sure if that actually brings anything to the conversation.
There's a gallery for every artist. There is. There is a gallery for every artist. But sometimes artists aren't necessarily great at assessing whether a certain gallery is right for them.
Yes, that's a good point. I agree about that.
So investigation has to take place on your part to look at the gallery, look at the artwork that they carry, the type of artwork that they carry. Every gallery is different and every artist is different. But there is a gallery for every artist. Courtship, it's not with me. And I'll get into networking and why that is your most important tool. It's networking and being out in the community and meeting people and meeting gallery owners. Having your face seen is the most valuable tool you can have as an artist, more than anything else that you do, in terms of getting representation by a gallery. You can either be...
Yes, it's true. Networking is a very important aspect of your daily studio practice. You need to get out of studio and obviously network, do your research about galleries, meet them. But at the same time, this is a great point, but at the same time I think that oftentimes best things that happens in your art career are those that you create yourself, or those that comes through the recommendation. For instance, collector perhaps recommended you to other collectors, or mention you to the gallery owner, and those networking parts of your web at some point might benefit in the gallery representation, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you will land in the perfect gallery even after your greatest research you do, because at the end gallery representation becomes long-term friendship that you have to manage, and there is lots of ups and downs on that journey, and you need to be willing to accept them and follow through all the obstacles.
Either be the top artist, you can be the bottom artist, or you can be in between. And by that I mean there are some artists that just love being the top artist in a gallery. They're a legend in their own hometown. But I don't know that that necessarily long-term is going to advance your career. You've got to challenge yourself. You've got to take sometimes that lower platform and build to that mid platform and then move up. And assessing that and being aware of that journey is really, really important. Rotate.
Yes, that's a good point. I look at my art career as a long-term game. It's like a chess. You sometimes lose, you sometimes win, and you make good moves or bad moves. You lose or win. But he brought here a really good point that sometimes you feel like you're starting up really well, you're going to the top, but then you hit the wall and you fell down really fast. And it's not a bad thing to fall down. It's a bad thing if you don't know how to get up from that mistake and then go through that, follow up, and then try to find a way to recreate yourself in a new way of creating opportunities or getting them in your journey.
Rotating your art. Artwork should be rotated on a minimum of 3 times per year. Now, I'm not saying that everything has to go out and everything has to come in, but I'm saying when a client comes in, a collector comes in, they go, "What's new?" Well, if I haven't seen you for 3 months, you're not new.
Well, I'm assuming that he's saying that for the gallery, that if the gallery does not rotate the work, nothing new shows up, then of course it means that they won't get any new collectors, or the collectors who comes in, they're not going to buy the work they have seen 3 months ago or 6 months ago, and that work hasn't changed. They constantly want to see something new. But let's be honest, we are artists, and some artists work very quickly. Some produce couple works a year or couple works a month, and some works are in different locations. You not necessarily have to force yourself to change something constantly just to prove yourself that you are doing great. Yes, it's true, if you don't show up for more than 6 months or don't text your friend for 6 months, they tend to forget about you because they just don't hear about you and they don't know what's going on with you. But look at the career of musicians like Eminem. He, for instance, created an album, tour, and then he disappeared for another year or two before another album. And it's not that you need to create something constantly new every day and or every month or every 6 months change something. You just need to learn how to reappear again with your audience, how to manage your long-term appearance. And it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to change something every 6 months. You can just even change every 1 year or every 2 years if you really want to, if you know how to do it. So, but in case of gallery, maybe it works differently. They really have to show artists to sell. They have to pay bills, and they have a staff, assistants, and all that kind of things. And sometimes they can't even afford socks, just like this guy who show up on this talk without socks. I just really think that this is very disrespectful, and even for me as an artist.
The person who just sent me artwork is the newest thing that's come in. So you need to keep that inventory fresh, and you need to keep the gallery fresh for you. Pricing of your artwork. I have artists who come in all the time and they go, "Wow, that's $11,000. My artwork is as good as that." It might very well be, but you haven't paid your dues.
Yeah, that's true. You need to earn those whatever he call it dues, whatever. But it's not necessarily true. You know, once you get gallery representation, sometimes they kind of force your prices up. You just need to have your own voice about the prices. I know a very well established artist who keeps his prices low to this day, and lots of galleries he works with, they argue that he should raise his prices. But you know what, it's actually it should be actually up to artists, not up to the gallery, how to raise the when to raise the prices. And I learned that on my own skin, and now I know a little bit better about the market and the relations with the galleries, so I'm a little bit more careful. Um, but I think that he trying to present the point of view of artists who maybe is a great painter or great sculptor, but not necessarily have that level of representation or level of sales yet to sell the work he does for the amount of money that gallery manages.
This is an artist that has been painting for 20 years and is in 15 major museums. Your work may be as good. You've got to go up the ladder just like anybody in the corporate world does, and you've got to pay your dues and work up. It's all part of that formula of what I'm telling you about, of you've got to have your lower galleries, and then at a certain point you get to a mid-career, and then you might want to get rid of those galleries and find better galleries in other areas. It's all a very methodical business plan.
Yes, I agree. It's going back to that long-term goal, long-term goal. You have to see yourself in that perspective of 10, 15 years from now on, what will happen then. Even if you can't predict what it will be, you need to have some sort of plan that you want to show at certain places or not to show, or you need to decide something. And I also agree that the level of galleries you get corresponds to the level of problems and quality of art you make. So it's very important to start maybe slow and have that progression line rather than just. There was actually an article a year ago, I believe, or 2 years ago, about an artist, emerging artist, who was working with a gallery who skyrocketed his prices. Then one of the collectors who bought his work couldn't resell it for even the amount of the money he bought the work, and he made an article with a newspaper that was not favorable for the artist, and that definitely damaged his career. So you have to gradually and progressively grow with the quality and seriousness of your work that you do, and those other things like galleries and shows will come along.
It's not by accident. And that's what gallerists do, or at least that's what galleries should be doing, I should say. Let's talk about social media. And this is probably one of the best and greatest pieces of information I can share with you. Once you start getting a collector base, it's just like interviewing for a job. You know, when I just hired my administrator, I got over 700 applications in 24 hours. And I had to have a way to weed those out. Even if your settings are set to private, there's still a way to access your information. I eliminated that down to 25 just by looking at their social media pages. Their politics, what kind of human being they were, what they do, You're interviewing for a job. And your collectors will do the same thing, because eventually your collectors will friend you on Facebook or friend you on Instagram.
Well, yes, I agree with you applying for a job as a accountant or like a manager of a team, or you're becoming a CEO of a company, or then those things matters. But sometimes for artists, if you do silly things on the social media, that actually might be more interesting for the collector than anything else you do with your art, maybe, and that might actually lead to buy your art by that collector. So I don't necessarily agree with what he's saying here in this video, but I also agree that you should maybe artists should stay away from politics or expressing their direct opinion about politics on the social media, but they definitely can express their opinions about politics, social changes through their art, through their artwork, and that's different. And I think that that's something he maybe didn't distinguish here, and I think that applying for the job at the gallery as an accountant or representative or art seller, it's totally different. And yes, definitely, he probably wants to look at somebody's social media and see what they post and what they do during the weekends. But at the same time, he doesn't wear socks, and he's talking about all those things where he is not paying any respect to the audience he is talking to.
And they look at that. Now, I'm very passionate about my politics, but I don't air them on social media. But you need to think about the business of art. An art dealer has the lowest profit margin of any business in the world. Needless markup, my name for Neiman Marcus. A shirt is made in India. With the taxes and the tariffs, it comes into the United States, it costs them $6. They have a 20-time markup on it. They sell it for $120, sometimes more. We're talking about 50-50 here. And we're talking about having to pay rent. We're talking about having to pay for openings, because in our business, it is the law. You must have an opening every 8 weeks. I don't know who made up this law, but it's the law.
So I'm going to comment on that and then stop this video. It's pretty long, and maybe I'll make a second part of it. What he's saying here, basically, that gallery has their own expenses. They have to pay bills, electricity, employees, and all that stuff. But let's be honest, where are the artists on this side? We have to pay bills, we have to take care of electricity, lights, and sometimes we have to outsource the work, like building crates or creating shipping or employing help in form of assistant in the studio. And that's not easy. Pains also cost. So I'm not necessarily sure if he's talking here to the artists or restricted to the other galleries, but we all know this information. It's nothing new, and I don't know what he's trying to show here right now or tell us that we all know that. Every one of us has to pay some sort of bills in their lives and have some sort of expenses. We all know that. We all have to make a business. And if he's talking about art as a business, then let's be honest, artists are in a way businessmen too, and they have to make profits, and in a way artist has a harder way to do it, because gallery can change the show every 8 weeks, as he's saying, and make new art available to the same collectors and sell it to the same collectors, where artists, once he sell to a particular collector 1 or 2 works, maybe 3, 4, or next year maybe another one, that might be it. The collector might not be interested in buying anything else, as he is pursuing something new or trying to get something new from the market. And I think that artists here have a much harder situation, and they actually have to find um, better ways to sell. In that case, getting more than one gallery, being open to promoting ourselves on social media, understanding social media, understanding advertising, understanding the gallery, the city we live in, and all those kind of informations. They are definitely useful. Excuse me. They are definitely useful, and I think that this video is maybe interesting for those who just graduated straight away from the school, but I don't think that so far he's saying anything new or anything that I didn't know. But at the same time, I think that some of the things he is saying um, don't prove me don't prove that he has that credibility to talk about it, and especially the lack of socks. I don't know what it means. Maybe somebody should email him and ask him about it. At the same time, I read some comments on this video, and every other comment is about his socks, or the fact that he's not wearing them. And also, seems like most people agree with the fact that things he's presenting or saying are not so new to us. And probably, as I said at the beginning, with your own intuition, you can figure out most of the things by yourself, and you learn as your uh, difficulty in getting things progress. So basically, what I mean by it, that if you're emerging artist, you probably think of reaching those top galleries, but you end up somehow working with those smaller first, then with those middle ones, and eventually get to the top. And I think that that's important. Sometimes you find one gallery that is small at the very beginning, but you grow gradually with them, and actually they might expand to the point that you even don't have to change gallery. You might stay with them forever and build with them your art career to the point that you become one of those top artists at some point. So yeah, I don't know. Let's see what will happen in the second part. I'll try to do the second part shortly, and leave your comments below. Subscribe to my channel, like or dislike the video, whatever, and just let me know what you think. And let's keep the conversation open. Check also their channel, Alan Avery Art Company. I think that I haven't checked all of those videos. I maybe briefly saw 2 of them, and this one is one of them. And definitely, if you find it interesting, you should subscribe to them as well. But first, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Meanwhile, I'm going back to my painting, which is just over there. And please visit my website, follow me on the Instagram and Facebook, whatever social media, and my politics you can find there. I hope you will enjoy all of it, and I hope you also enjoyed this reaction video. And he's definitely interesting guy. To me, he should be maybe an artist, not an art dealer. That's what I think. Thank you so much, and I see you next time. Bye.